sure if you can hear my video or something. I've kind of liked our 4-day class weeks here, these past few weeks. Okay, I'm going to open Visual Studio. And in Visual Studio, I'm just going to open, let's see, the project that we were working on last week was Chapter 3, Get User Data. So I'll go ahead and open it. Now, when I opened mine, everything showed up just the way I like. I see my code and everything. But remember, if it didn't, if I couldn't see my code window, I could find my Solution Explorer window and double-click on my program.cs file, my code file, to find my code. Now, notice mine that my curly braces are all colored-y. And we didn't do that yet in class. So let me show you how to install this application to colorize these things if you like. Now I kind of like it because I can say, you know, on mine it's this pink one. Some people didn't like it, but I want to give you the option of trying it. So on your menus, you want to find the Tools menu and choose Extensions and Updates. Now we can run this here, so you can tell these things are easy to install with Visual Studio. You can just find all sorts of stuff. So we want to find one that's available online. So right now, if you notice, it's just by default clicked on all of the ones that are installed. So click on Online so that you can search everything that's available. And in the search bar, I searched for color-coded, but I can tell you what the name of the thing is if you like. I think I'll just search for color-coded though. Color-coded curly bracers. And there's a bunch of different applications that are available because there might be one that you like better. But the one that we ended up using is called Viaspora. So if you see that one in your list, let me find it here. Showing up. There it is, way up at the very top. I was down too low. So this Viaspora is the one that I installed. So go ahead and click on Install or Download or whatever it's giving you an option for. And then you might have to close Visual Studio and then reopen Visual Studio and it will install. So it's kind of a clunkety process. It's not as smooth as it could be, but it'll get it on there and then you can get those curly braces a little bit more under control. Seems to be what the big thing is for beginning C# programmers. I'm sorry, they're everywhere. Yes, sir? And your options, did you look on online?
Yeah. That's 4. How do I know this now? Yes. CIS is 4. Your original studio, right? No, regular Visual Studio. Yes, 4. Visual Studio Enterprise. Visual Studio 2017.
Way up here. Let's see if it comes back. No, mine was like, I finally noticed that I had a screen out here, but I didn't already read mine. So, and I had already.
Are you sure?
Finally got it on.
I mean, I tried to turn it on, but like, we don't
Push down. Some of them didn't hear.
but I couldn't because she said it was wrong.
Should be able to submit it online.
No.
Like
You could, you would have planned to. Okay, I'll show you.
To what? I'm sorry. I was watching.
It's slightly retarded.
That's what she says about her.
No, not
Just
over.
read it. At home and let us fix it. And she's like, no, I don't want to fix it anymore. And keep messing with my computer.
Then you close that.
All right, where's that down?
And you go
Download it. Yes. It's beautiful.
And in a window should pop up, ask me to install
I
it.
didn't see that, but I did that. Okay. That's right.
Yeah, it works.
Okay.
Click on modify.
First number 9. Second one is 5. It's exactly the same as
Right
it.
here would step you through
But
this. The
it's not.
Visual Studio will work for you. He's on it. Thank you, sir. All right, are you getting color-coded curly braces?
I am.
Yay! Okay, so let's make this program do a little bit more then. Right now, we have asked for their name and their age. And then we're doing some things with the console color and outputting how old they are. Getting everybody fixed up here. Now down here towards the bottom, they're getting everybody updated. That one computer was messing up. We got it. The next thing we're going to learn after our unit exam next week is how to separate all of our code into subprograms, into modules, and then things will be a lot more organized and we won't have all this stringy code just going on forever. So that'll be good. Yeah, that's easier. Your unit exam I had already, and I don't know what happened. I don't know where it went. It's all gone. But you love it when stuff like that happens. That's why I believe you guys sometimes when you tell me stuff like that. So just lost an hour or so. I'll find it. I'm going to find it, and then I can get it out there for you. But you'll have a practice exam to make you ready. Okay, so what I'd like to do is when I read in this age, I'd like to validate it as being numeric. So that video does that. Never hurts us to practice again. But down here, way down here, we can take that user age that was input and just convert it to an integer. So let's move that line of code. I'm not going to move that comment because the comment still belongs with the rest of it. But I'm going to move this line of code and I'm going to put it up here right after we read in that age. I want to clean things up a little bit. Been being a bad programmer here. Actually not. Just a matter of choice. But I think I'd like to declare all of the variables at the top of the program. So I'm going to declare our username and our user age is strings. And then I'm going to declare our num age is an integer. And I'm getting red squigglies on all of these because down here in this line of code when I'm trying to use username, the compiler says, you've already declared this username and you're declaring it again. So I need to eliminate the keyword string because I want to just use that variable that I've already declared. So with C#, I can do it either way. I can declare it on the same line of code where I'm using it, or I can declare it separately. But either way, I only want to declare it with its data type once for its given scope. And the scope of these variables is our main method, right? So they're going to be available throughout this main method. So I only want to declare them once. So now I have just a little bit of a change. We have our variables declared. Let's put a comment here. Prompt for input. And now for our age, we need to validate it. If I just convert to int32 like this, and I type in something that's invalid, did it not? What's it? Is it freezing up on you again?
Yeah.
Okay, let's make sure that one works, and then we'll make sure it's not following you around.
Yeah.
So whenever we read in our age, let's try running it. Make sure that we didn't mess anything up here, moving our variables around. I'll enter my name. And if I type in an invalid age, our program crashes, right? Because it crashes on this line of code, if you look, where we're trying to convert to int32. So is this a syntax error or a runtime error? What? Runtime, right? If it was a syntax error, we couldn't have compiled, so we wouldn't be able to run it. So we know it's a runtime error, but it's because of invalid input, right? It's not because of a logic problem like within our program, but C# in the Visual Studio IDE is trying to help us figure out what happens here. So it's got all sorts of helpful stuff. It's highlighted the line of code where it canceled. It says, here is the value of these variables that you're trying to work with in this line of code. User age is this FJK thing. So not only is it showing me what line of code canceled, it's showing me what the value of the variables are that it was working with. So I can see all that information there. And then I should be able to see a lot more information about all of my variables down here in this locals window. So in the locals window, it's showing me my username, my user age, all of my different variables that I have set up for this program. So it tries to be super helpful, but it's an exception no matter what. The system didn't know how to handle it. So I'm going to close here. Yes, sir?
Where do you get to the locals window?
Is it not showing up?
No.
Did you close out of your exception?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get the runtime error?
Yeah.
Make the error come up. Just run.
I was just stretching.
Did you run it?
Yeah.
So what was going on? You guys keep running it by pressing F5, and the debugger doesn't work if you run it pressing F5. Thank you, Edward. So it wasn't showing up with all of these messages things. So you have to run it using your start button for it to display all that stuff to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Forgot. All right, so now we're going to fix it because that's no good. We don't want our user to be disrupted in their work when they type something wrong. That'll teach them, right? They won't be typing stuff wrong, but it's not a very productive way to spend the day. So we can use a special statement called the Tryparse. And the way the Tryparse works is it returns either a true or a false. So I'm going to start out just by typing the syntax. I start out by saying I want to work with an integer. Now, an integer is a meaningful thing to Visual Studio. So when I type the dot, I get a whole drop down full of things. And one of the methods that is available to an integer is a tryparse. Now, the tryparse is a method. When I press tab, the IDE pops in the opening and closing parentheses for me. And if I look at the help up there, it says the first thing you need is a string S. Well, the string I'm going to use is my user age that I just had them type that data into. Then I need a comma for my next parameter. Now, the IDE, again, is just giving me all sorts of help, like almost too much. It's overlaid my code for you guys so you can't see it. But it says, okay, the next thing you need is an out integer that's your result. Well, we already declared our integer num age, so we're going to use that one. So we need to say our out is num age. So the statement is, try to parse user age is an integer. If you can, put the output in num age. Now, that will throw a true. So we can actually use this in an if statement. We can say if the tryparse of user age to an integer is successful, put user age into the num age variable. So our num age variable is going to end up holding that numeric value. Now, if we can't parse it, if it's not valid numeric data, num age is going to contain a value of 0. So I'm going to update my if statement just a little bit and put an exclamation point to make it a not. So if we can't parse it, I want to write out a message. And let's write something like, I'll do the \n non-numeric age using 0. Now the next line of code, converting to int32, I don't need anymore because my tryparse did that for us, because now that num age is that converted data. So I don't have to do that convert. Now if we run our program and put in non-numeric data, we should just see that message. And then everything gets kind of messy, but I've got some yellow there. So I think that my message, non-numeric age using 0, I could do a couple of things. I could put a \n at the end of it to make it force a new line, or I could make it be a write line instead of a write statement. I'll do that. Whenever you get those kind of mismatches in hypergrade, consider those options. You know, maybe you need to try a write line instead of a write. Now I'll try it again and everything should be all beautiful. And it says you're using 0. Now whenever I use that 0, it makes everything kind of dumb, doesn't it? It's like it's not a really good number. So could we change it somehow to where we didn't do any of that other stuff? We could. You want to try it? Are you ready? It's going to involve a lot of curly braces. Not a lot, but some important ones. What if we made the rest of the program be the else clause? So right here where we have our write line, non-numeric age, instead of saying using 0, we'll just say ending. And then after that line of code, we'll put an else. Now in this else clause, I want to do everything else. So I'm going to put opening curly brace, but I'm going to delete the closing curly brace line. And I'm going to scroll down to find where I want to end this else clause. I want the read key to work either way. So I want the closing curly brace right there before that read key statement. Now, the Visual Studio IDE is super helpful. Whenever you type that closing curly brace, it'll automatically indent all of the code between that opening and closing. So it helps you try to make sure that you've got all of the code that you wanted within that else clause. So now our read key is out here outside of the if statement. Whether they entered good data or bad, we'll pause the console with our read key. But up here, if they gave us a bad age, we're not going to do any of our other things. So let's try it. So now if I type in my age, I should get all of the information out that we were expecting. But if I type an invalid age, I should just end the program and be done. Questions? Does it look good? Now, if you notice, we have an if statement with another else where we're checking our age nested within our else clause. So we can nest if statements like that. If, else, if, else. We can have the if statement that doesn't have opening and closing curly braces because it just has one line of code associated with it, followed by an else clause that has many lines of code in its body, so it has opening and closing curly braces. So don't let the small things confuse you. Remember, bless you, an if statement and an else statement are just always followed by their body. Only one line. If no braces, many lines of braces. Let's make it an if else. Right here, we've got if our num age is greater than 18, then they're old enough to vote. Well, let's add a little bit more in there. Let's say if they're greater than or equal to 16, they're old enough to drive. How's that? And then we want to say else if they are greater than or equal to 18, that they're old enough to vote. And finally, you are too young to vote. Does that look right? Now we can do an else if clause like this. Let's make some notes here, some comments about our if statement. If statement with condition. And remember, our condition always has to be enclosed within parentheses. That's a syntax rule. Now, if we do an else if, we still have to have a condition because it has an if statement, right? So I can't just say else if without anything. That would be meaningless. I would just say else in that case, right? So else if implies I have another condition, and then my else clause, is going to be just everything else. So it'll be our kind of our default. You know, if nothing else hits on those if statements or if else's, we'll fall through and do the else body. Let's run that. I don't think it's quite right. You guys are like, oh, you know, it's fine. You're figuring out your C# syntax. Let's look at our logic here. I'm going to say that I am 18. It says I'm old enough to drive. That's true. But it doesn't say I'm old enough to vote. Yes, sir.
Mine says that, I said that I was 18,
Uh-huh.
and mine says that I'm too young to vote. Like, it doesn't exclude.
So it hit your else statement, huh? So look at yours.
I need to put my age first, or greater than or equal to 18 first.
Greater than or equal to 18 first. Why?
Otherwise it'll look to 16.
Right, because I'm doing a decreasing kind of sequence in my else if. So I want to check for my largest value first. Now, if they're 18 though, I think I need to give them the message about both things. So I'm going to say you're old enough to drive, and I'm going to write out the line that you're old enough to vote. And then I'm going to put both of those within curly braces because I want to do both of those things if they're greater than or equal to 18. Now I want to change my else if to be 16. So I'm doing a decreasing series here, right? Because I'm checking 18, then 16, then finally my else if. Now let's try that and see where we are. Notice that only this first if statement has curly braces around it, but these two else clauses are still associated with that if statement. They're all still working together. So I'll try 18 again. I got you're old enough to drive, you're old enough to vote. So that looks right. Now I'm going to try 16. Oops, old enough to vote. That's a problem in my code, huh? I want that to say drive. There's the error. And then if we come up with somebody, let's see, I'll do 16, old enough to drive. And one more. Let's do 14. Just too young for anything. So that's what we should be seeing. So let me see what's going on if yours is coming out a little different. So we can find where the difference is. Everybody good? Did you find it?
I think it's a problem with my flash drive. I don't know why it will not access my flash drive because I was able to use it in the library literally minutes right into the class. But I'm trying to kind of build what you're talking about and then I come up with
Just do session open and just paste this in session. Let's see. I think it'll be easier if I do the CS file though.
sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah.
Let's use this opportunity. Now I need to send the CS file in the chat, so if anybody else needs it where we are, I'm going to use the easy way of getting to the folder here that contains my project. And some of you, this might help you when you're turning things in Hypergrade. If you go to Solution Explorer and right-click on your solution, one of the options that shows up is Open Folder and File Explorer. That takes you to your project folder. Inside my project folder is going to be my program.cs file. Now I might have already shown you that, but I showed one class and not the other, so I wanted to make sure because we haven't seen each other every day. Now I'm going to open the chat and send this file. So if you need to grab that version of it, there it is. In Zoom, and you can just grab it. So this is our program.cs file that we're working on right now. So what if we decided that we wanted to do something different depending on whether they were 16 or 17? Let's put, first of all, some curly braces around our if statement body, our else if body for if age is greater than or equal to 16. Bless you. Notice how the IDE is trying to be super helpful. Sometimes you have to delete that closing curly brace. A lot of people just abide by the rule that they always use curly braces, and that's a great rule. And then you won't have to be adding them in later. But I want you to be aware that you don't have to. So in our else if statement here, we've decided that they are greater than 16, greater than or equal. But we also know that they must be less than or equal to 17, right? Because there's no way in this if statement structure that we could have both of these conditions be true, because this is an if with an else. So I could never have them hit both of these conditions, right? Only one or the other. So in this body, I know then that they must be 16 or 17. So I could actually put another if statement in here. And let's say if num age modulus 2 is equal to 0, what would that tell me? That they're 16. They're sweet 16, awesome. And I could put else, whoops, there's those curly braces for me. You know, when you're 17, you just don't get that much. It's just not a big deal. All right, so now we've got this embedded if statement. And Noah mentioned if we do this modulus statement, if it comes out as 0, then we know they're 16, right? Because that modulus statement is telling us that we've got an even number. We were evenly divisible by 2. Why has my if statement got a weird squiggly? It says, hey, you know, you could convert this using the question mark colon expression syntax. That's true, I could. Let's try it. Will it do it for us? It's not going to do it for me. It's too much trouble for me right now. We will do it later when we're thinking about a better line of statement that's not like all of this string stuff. So anyways, I'm just going to ignore the suggestion here and look at our else if body. In our else if body, we decided they have to be 16 or 17. We're going to use some fancy modulus to decide and say they're 16 or they're 17. But no matter what, we're going to write out that line that they're old enough to drive. So let's make sure that we got all that working properly, our logic. So I'll say 16, and it comes out with the correct message, sweet 16. Now I'll try 17. And that looks good too, because we always want to try our different cases. So now we see that we can have if statements and else clauses. We can have if statements with else if clauses. We could have nested if statements however we want them. Anything that we would like is fine. The only thing that we haven't really explored much is a switch case statement. So let's put that in this same poor program. I'm going to come down to the end after we set our foreground color to our previous color, and let's try a switch case. So that our sample program will have everything for you. In this switch case statement, we are going to say that we want to interrogate a variable, and based on what value it is, we're going to do certain things. So let's try some stuff and see what we can get away with. First of all, the keyword is switch. And whenever we say the keyword switch, we have to follow it with a variable name. Well, we would like to use our age, our numeric age variable. Now it's already giving me a little warning. It's saying some cases are not processed. default. So don't worry about that. We'll get that in just a second. So what kind of things do we want to say about different ages? Let's say in case they're 5, they start kindergarten, right? Now we could put the word 5 in there, or we could use our num age as a parameter replacement variable for that statement. And we want to practice that, so we will. Now with C# and the way the switch case statement works, we're saying switch up this variable num age. In case it's 5, do this. So I'll put a little comment there. In case num age is 5. Now, one thing about the switch case statement when we're working with C#, we have to actually say what we want to happen once we're done with processing each case, and we have to supply a default. Let's put in a default. And I'm just going to make it say the default case statement was found. Still mad at us. It says control cannot fall through from one case to another. The default one actually is a little more helpful. It says the break statement is missing. Well, after each case statement body, we have to put the keyword break to say I am now done with that case statement, so break out of it. Let's put a few more cases here. What are some big ages?
65.
65? What should we say about it?
That's when you'd be retired.
Okay. I can spell it. Retirement now at parameter 0, and we want parameter 0 to be our num age again. And I have to have my break. Those are all good ones. Let's say we wanted to do something where we talk about a couple of different years. I don't know, say 18, 21. It doesn't seem to like that. Potential graduation at age. So how could we do that? Hit your Google and tell me, how could I do an or like that in that case statement? So different in so many different languages. How do you do that in C#? While you're looking, I'll just ramble on. I always love the switch case statement. And you know, when the programming contest for Skills USA, when the judges look at things, they say things like they want to find code that's really effective and uses the least amount of resources, you know, most efficient code, and they really like case statements. Yes, sir?
So here's a view. Case 18 colon case 2 colon case 7 colon. So space and then case. And then 7 colon.
Like that?
Yeah.
That looks right. So now we're getting an or situation. We're saying case 18 or 21. So the switch case statement can be super helpful for us. Now, just like the if else, if our age is 5, it's not going to be processed by any of the other case bodies. It will only be processed by the one that it matches. So let's try it. Mine's like thinking about it, can't run. There it goes. And I'll say 5 because we have that awesome thing. Start kindergarten at 5 is our last message, so that looks good. Yes, sir?
I haven't been able to get anything after basics to work. Like I can't get it to say the 16 and 17 stuff. Here.
Oh, I mean, I was just looking. Yeah, I know it was good. Yeah. Here's a clam, right? Yeah. Yeah, because they do in real life.
No,
At least I saw
never have done
It's
Never, never. Okay, so we have some people that are having some issues. That's okay. Let's get this fixed up here in a minute, but before we do that, we're going to do an activity to kind of help everybody get clarified with if statements and get you up and moving around a little bit. And then after that, you guys have lab time to work on the rebel that's due tomorrow and the assignment that's due tomorrow. Excuse me. Here's what we're going to do. We've got all of these giant sheets. I'll show you one if I can get it pulled off of here. So this sheet has a little code snippet on it. It's like a little if statement. And you're going to, with your partner, have a specific color of Post-it notes. You guys are going to go to each of these code snippets, and on the Post-it note, you're going to write down what the output would be from this piece of code. And then you're going to attach that Post-it note to the sheet. Now, you're going to write that on the inside of the Post-it note, this sticky side, so that when somebody looks at it, they can't see your answer, right? And then when we're all done, we'll look at what the correct answer is for all of these, and we'll put our different Post-it notes up on the board so we can see how everybody did. So if you're pink and you see a whole bunch of pink Post-it notes up here, you'll know that you guys have a really good understanding of if statements, which is what we want. If you don't see any of your color, more work is in order. So we have a whole bunch of different sheets that we're going to do for you guys to walk around and check to see what you think the output will be. Now I have to find some Post-it notes that are different colors for everybody. But let's create some teams. Let's come up here. How do we want to do it? I think I want to do it by, so dumb. How many kids are in your family, the family you were born into? So if you have, if you're an only child, be up here with one kid in your family. If you have 13 or 14 stepbrothers and stepsisters are all in your family, be back at the back with all of those. Yes, sir?
So that includes half siblings and whatnot.
Sure. Yep. Yep. You're used to getting along. So one up here, a whole bunch back there, and then we'll figure out how to split us up. See if that's a good split or if we're getting a yucky split. I gotta have enough colors here for everybody. There's a color. Oh, everybody's getting it. You guys are so good. Split, split, split up. Come on in one line. All you single only children, come up here close to the front so people can fit in behind you. All right, there we go. They're getting up here so everybody can fit. I've got some old answers. This doesn't look like a very good line. It's kind of scraggly. I need a single file line, please. Come on, come on, come on. Let's make a line. You guys can do it. Do you want me to yell? You don't want me to yell, do you? Let's make a line. Come on. It's not this hard. You guys are wasting all your time. Come on, guys. Get in the line. It's not that hard. Let's go. Jeez. Quit trying to waste time because everybody needs their time. All right, are we in a line now? How many people do we have? Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So we're going to have one group of 3. So count off to 9.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, and you two get to be together? Okay, because I missed somebody. All right, our number 1, come on up here. Meet your awesome partner. Say hello. Oh, he can get through. Have you met each other yet? You met each other. Number 2, come on up. That's our number 2. We'll try to do this in a way where everybody doesn't trip over everybody's stuff. Number 3, and come on down. Number 3, number 4, number 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, and then our extra 10 group that's back there on their arm. So good. Okay, so some of you, I'm going to give you a sheet here to stick to the wall and a color. And some of you, who else has got a color? Now we want to stick these to the wall wherever there's a good spot, because we've got quite a few of them. So whatever you can find, it will work perfect. All right, you guys, here is a nice color for you. And we'll start with that one. Thank you so much. All right, next. Now, I'm not sure what color I did, but what did I do? Orange, that's what I thought. You are so good. Thank you, sir. You might have to just stay here and help me. Okay. Thank you. And then I've got green and pink out of this mess. Now, some of these should be unsolvable. Let me know. Thank you, guys. Go right ahead. There you go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, I hope I don't reuse our colors. You wouldn't want anybody to get credit for somebody else. Thanks, guys. I use this when I know it's safe. Okay, let's see. This one. Good. Oh, yay. Let's see. We have so many. Here, I'll give you guys these books. All right, thanks.
All right, we want to head over. So, what is that? Go back there.
They are hiding. Let's hit the camel one. Thank you. You guys started last. My fault, I'm slow. Too many Post-its. We should have a few more. Now, as you get done, just move around to one that you haven't done yet. There should be a few extras.
I know what he's doing because I'm a terrible player. I'm not good at like she's not going to win. What's up? This is not good.
I'm not very good at that. Sorry, that's why I'm like, wait, you're doing that right.
That's what you're so no, this is true. Yeah, I'm not sure how that stuff. That makes sense. So. Now. All right. It's already reflected. So you're not about to mark this right at all. So we start again. I'm giving it a go really fast, so it's not a great. So yeah, I know what it's doing. So this number this is less than this. More,
Hello.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So if there's a error in the code, do we just write error, or do we have to like explain the whole thing? You know.
You could just write error. Which one are you looking at? What's the number on it? Do you see it?
I can't see it. Sorry.
There should be a big number written on the top. Number 6.
Yeah.
Let's see if it's.
Yeah.
So you might need to use your phone to search for that because it's not an error.
Really?
Right.
Okay.
No, if you need to look at your phone to do some research, do. Syntax research is fine. That's the one it was griping at us about, and I mumbled up here about we would do that later, and we didn't do it. It's tricking you.
I'm just gonna write what I think the number 7 squared. All right. Oh, they want to. They want us to. They want us. I was misinterpreting the. I'm sorry. I'm not that. They want us to know the outcome over 7 squared, which is going to write us like not this, not this. Yeah. I was overthinking it.
Yeah, just grab one you can find that you haven't done yet. Bless you. Better look it up.
Right line over 40, right line over 30 will be 50 because square root of 7 is less than 49. So this will not work. You get what I'm saying? So think about it. Think about it. So I'm coming in. We're going to declare a number here. Okay? And down here, we're going to say square item. The program's going to read it and says, okay, this number is 49. This number now has a 50. So we're going to write this line. So because it is more than 40, 30, the rate is 60. So you need to do it.
So if it's 3, then it evaluates.
old.
So it's
Yeah, because this is the if statement is just like the whole thing. So these are under the. I'm not sure. I think you would.
Or would it go down to the alpha? I'll just make sure to send it over down to the alpha.
Then it would.
Are any of these errors?
Hmm?
Are any of these errors on the wall? None of them are errors?
On this wall.
No, I didn't put errors out there for you to analyze. I want you to analyze code, not errors. I tried to find tricky ones. Huh? So remember how it looks? Doesn't matter. Only curly braces or one line of code matter. The compiler is not going to care about it being indented. So if it's indented wrong, trust yourself. You're probably right.
Okay.
I'm going to save answers. We have the same answer. Okay, so we're going to do this one. Number is less than 3. It's 10. If it's greater than that, the entry fee is 1,000. This was whatever else is on just like Should not add this.
It has nothing to do with something. Zero. So it's going to be 0 plus
That breakdown. Go to the next one.
and then it's going to respond plus 6.5.
I mean, greater than.
So what would it Oh, right. So, so since it's greater than 3, what would that make? Would that make it 10 or 25? Makes sense. At least I think it's saying it's default. It's not your typical if statement. So an if statement is it works much more.
Okay. Sorry.
I was trying to figure out.
I knew you needed to hurry, but I just know that.
Yep. I think so, yeah, because that's representing that number. 25.
finishing up. Look around, make sure that you're not missing one somewhere. Don't want you to think you did bad when there was one missing. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Oh, easy peasy. Yeah. Do you have internet now? Did you have trouble or? Okay, we got to get those rebels done, so let me know what we can do.
And it's less more, it's less, but it's not 17. It has to output this. So for 17, it'll output this. For 16, it'll output that.
Guys got them all. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Well, for this variable, not well, for 16, if this would be 16, this variable will work. So it was still out for 17, but this won't work right. You get what I'm saying? Okay, so let's put 17 in.
Oh, we're so close.
It's less than 19, but if you're 17, it has to be equal to 17. These all have to be true in order for this to work. For 16, this is true. But this is false. So we know these are ands. These all have to be true in order for this program to work. We'll say this. So say for 17, if this statement is true. For 16, this is not true. For 16, this is true. For 17, this is true.
Thank you. Yep, thank you, sir.
Is plus 45. This is over. It's just saying it's straight. Is that right? Because it runs out units.
It's going to present after. I mean, you are telling us we were there. Yeah, we're like 6 or 7. I think both would work. Well, this value would output this statement. This value would output this statement. Well, would make those statements true. Exactly. Unless they're going to be married to the same variable. Yep. That was the range where it's 2, 6, it equals 17. We weren't so now I would write down for 16 this statement. For 16, write this statement. For 17, write this statement.
Yeah, and then go into the next one. Right. Go on.
Did you write this? I didn't get to see it. Oh, yeah. Is this one supposed to have the breakers on?
Yeah, I think it's got.
Wait, we've got that one. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is.
Not just dipstick.
So like, we created our own sound.
Okay, let's go back to the original one where you started. Grab your partner and we'll start grading them. Otherwise, we'll run out of time. So go back to that original one where you started. And we have, my watch is ringing at the same time the alarm's going off. I was like, I turned it off. It's still doing it. All right, so let's look at all of our posters here. I have them labeled with numbers so that we can figure out what we've got. Oh, whoever was here and messed up my computer did a really good job. Hang on. Let me try again. Now, what we're going to do is be grading them, so don't grade them yet until you know for sure. Hang on. Let me get this silly thing to where it'll show it to you. Youth presenter view. Now I can swap it. All right, so poster number 1, who's got it? Do you see it anywhere? Has someone got it? Can you guys grab it? Sorry, we'll put you in charge there. So in this one, we have a couple of variables. We have an integer and a double and a Boolean. And so some of these are just really good practice for you guys just looking at code too. So just some different ways of doing things. We set up the age is 14, and then we go into this if statement. So we're checking if student age greater than 14. Is that true? No. Else if student age greater than 14. Is that true? No. Else if student age greater than 10. Is that true? Yes. So we would write out this message, student is eligible. We would set this variable to true and the entrance fee variable to $2. Then as we go down, when we get out of that original if statement, here at the closing curly brace of this last else clause, we have a new if statement that checks to see if the student is eligible. So we should also see this message, entrance fee for a student that is 14 years old is $2. So we should see both of those output in poster number 1. So you guys look at all the answers, any that are right, let's bring up here to put on the whiteboard. Thank you guys, that one is a tough one. So it was first, but it was hard. So this is the message we should see. Number 2, who's got number 2? Do you see it anywhere? Okay, great. I was like, some of them rejected, so it might have been rejected. Okay, in this one, we declare an integer input number and set it equal to 7. And then we have this method, double it, which you guys have not seen yet. So if you figured this one out, really, really good job. In double it, we are passing in that number and doubling it, right? Is it really doubling it? No, it's taking it to the power of 2, so sort of. Okay, so we start out with our number of 7. We use the double it method, and then we check to see if that number that's been doubled is greater than a certain value. So which one is it going to hit? over 40. So that's what we should see on number 2. So check that one. Any that are right, let's bring up here to this the whiteboard so we can put them up for display. Yes, it should. Good job. There's our output. You should see over 40 and over 30. Very good. All right, what about number 3? Do you see it anywhere? Do we have a number 3?
On the door.
On the door? Oh, thanks. Thinking it was one I'd gotten rid of. All right, in this one we start out with 2 Booleans, is end of data and is valid data, and they're both false. We set up some strings. Yes, sir? The right ones, and just put them up here by a separate line for each color. So just put them side by side, and then we'll add more under each color. Good job, thanks you guys. Now we set up some strings for our messages. One string is going to say end of data, one is going to say the data is valid, and one is going to say the data is invalid. So then in our if statement, we're checking if it's not end of data, so if is end of data is false, which it is, then we go into the if statement. If is valid data, which it's not, so we're going to end up writing out this invalid message to the console. So for number 3, the data is invalid is all we should see. So any that are right, bring them up here and put them under these, and we'll make a column here of rightness. Make a collar under the colors.
Oh. I am not good with this morning.
That's okay. Jamie's been through this before. He's like, make sure it's the right colors so you can see. Is it almost the same? You might have to help. Some are too close for some of us. There's so many of you too. We might need some on the other side of our poster. Oh, he's got this. All right. Oh, looking good. Looking good.
We're going to put the invalid answers.
You can put them in the trash, or you can stick them back on the poster if you want to, and then they can check. Let's put them back on the poster so they can see how close they were if they want to. Okay, so another one here. Number 4. Where's number 4? You see it? Okay, for this one, we are doing an age thing again, and we've set the age to 17. And in this, we have an if statement with an or clause. So if you've watched the never-ending decision-making video, you've seen this a little bit. Do watch that video. You know, set it. I've had a lot of people tell me that I'm really good at making them go to sleep. So if you have sleeping problems, set up that YouTube video so that it'll lull you to sleep quietly and make you feel all good and dream about C#, which is a great thing to dream about. But anyways, this is a compound if condition, right? And what are these 2 bars? Is that an and or an or? Or. Very good. So here we're saying if the student age is greater than 17, is it? No. Or the student age is less than 19, is it? Yes. So we would do this student is 18 and eligible. Okay, so that should be the right answer for that one. Can you guys grade it?
But it's not a correct logic.
Right, exactly. Because some of them are to show you how you can make mistakes like that so easy. Not exactly logical. What about number 5? You got it somewhere? Okay, you guys got it? All right, in number 5, we're doing some math too. In our if statement, how gross. So we're starting out with this if statement, and first thing we're doing is a bunch of 5s. What's going to happen first? 5 times 5. So we'll have 25 plus 5, 30, plus 5, 35. So if 35 is greater than 6 to the power of 2, which is 36, so that would not be true, would it? So we'd go to our else clause, and we should see this message, the number 35 is less than or equal to the number 36. Grade that one for us. Okay, where's number 6? Do we have it? Okay, great. I know there's 1 or 2 I threw away that did have errors. Okay, so in this one, this is one of those ones again. You got to watch that video because it takes a really long time to talk about all of the different if statement formats because we want you to have a lot of flexibility. So yay. So in this one, we set exam score to 78 and we have a string that is going to be named grade. And we're setting our grade based on a comparison. So our grade is going to be set equal to either A or C. What it's going to be set to depends on the result of this comparison. If exam score is greater than 89, then grade will be set to A. Else, the colon is an else clause, it will be set to C. So this is kind of an all-in-one if statement. It's called a ternary if. If this is true, do what's after the question mark. Else, do what's after the colon. So no matter what, grade variable is going to be set, and it's going to be set to A if the condition is true, C if the condition is false. So then our output should say grade is C. And those kind of if statements, you guys are all probably, I know, a lot sharper of tax than me, but it took me, I think, my third programming class of seeing them before I totally, truly understood. So sometimes it just takes a little while. That's okay. Can beat it down. All right. I don't want to run out of time here. Number 7.
Where?
Okay, we're just going to look at the right answer. It is a switch case statement. We should see grade is F. Number 8. Do we have number 8 anywhere? Okay, in number 8, notice we have some constant variables that we're using in our if statements. So look back over there later after we're done if it was confusing. Totally understandable. So we should get on number 8, buy a permit for $10. 9. Now 9, depending on how many people get it right, we might want to do this one next time as we work with loops to kind of reinforce it because it has a lot of concepts that we wouldn't normally see in our book. But the result is the cost is 0. Poster number 10 uses that same setup again, the candy stuff and the shipper. Here we should see the cost is $35 on poster number 10. Do we have poster number 10? Okay, great. 11, more UPS and candy. Cost is $25. Number 12, you got it? We should have the student test eligible for student discount. 13, the entry fee is $25. 14, if it's out there, the refund percent is 5%. I think that's our last one. Whoa, look at you guys figuring this stuff out. Great job. We saw some really unusual syntax in a lot of these. Things for us to practice. Yes, sir?
I know, I recognize that how because we're using JavaScript.
Awesome. So you guys have seen something similar. Yeah, kind of snuck that one in there on you. We'll get to that next chapter. Yes, sir?
Putting the colon in C, make it all one.
No,
So then why was there a dollar sign?
because it was formatted as currency.
Yeah, we got that one.
So, the C means that whenever you're putting it within the curly braces, yes. Yes, it does. So look at those REPLs, and there should be a couple that have it formatted as currency that you haven't quite got to. And you'll see that when you get in there and look at those. We'll have a little more information for you. Okay, check and see how you did. We had a lot of really successful teams. You guys did a great job. You know, as a teacher, you don't want to trick people, but you want it to be challenging. It's, you know, there's a really fine line. So good job. Give yourself a hand. Whoa, you guys figured it all out. None of this tricky code could trick you. Okay, so the best thing for me is You know how some classes are boring? You learn everything right away. All you got to do is just memorize stuff. Not programming. There's always a new way to do stuff. And you guys see from looking around this code, your code might look completely different from somebody else's, and they might do the same thing. So let me know if you're having trouble getting that gas price thing done. I know it's a bit of a rush. So let's just try to keep our due date, though, tomorrow night so that we don't get behind because of the snow. I think you've got it. Yes, sir?
I tried submitting the gas stuff through high grade, for whatever reason, it doesn't like the which station.
Oh, okay. We'll take a look at it. Do these guys get going? And if you can stay, if you've got any questions, we'll figure them out, too. And I know some stuff wasn't working. I can post that program we were working on Canvas, on the announcements, just that .cs file, so that you'll have it. But do email me if you need me. And I can look at your code in hypergrade, even if it's not working. So if you've already posted it there and you're having trouble, just email me and I can see it and I can see what hypergrade is telling you. So have a great day. Happy Monday. See you on Wednesday. We have those snow. Sure. Actually, you can show it. Is it in hypergrade?
It was one for, it's not two numbers, it was the ones for.
So this is what I have with my program.
I think with
Works.
the only issue.
But it's
Oh,
going,
okay.
it's going immediately to the state.
Yeah, I can see what you have in hypergrade. So it's whatever you have out there, I can see it. So if it's giving you an error or something, you can email me and I can see it. You know.
And I have the same problem with two numbers, accessing two numbers, even putting in everything.
I have a left.
I'm just gonna leave it alone,
Yeah.
and this in for now, it's reading the correct ways. Okay.
Yeah, we'll figure out what's going on with it.
With the currency formatting, do you need the
No, we just had to do that for
What?
I'm confused. Close.
They don't have that setting set at system level, but your Windows machine normally will have that. Right, well, you can use that setting if you're having trouble with it, but you shouldn't be, because yours should already be set to that Windows setting. Let me know if it does something weird. That was a really rough one for me to wrap a life out of head. I was freaking out. And I
Thank you.
Sure.
The only issue, the only thing I was feeling was as I was thinking about the signs, like actual text saying, you can't input this, where was it? On the wrong line. And then also, I guess, they're seeing, it was gonna be 1 cent lower on mine than like 1. Oh, okay. So I was like,
And so those are really important things.
so sweet.
So if you look at that video that I showed you today, that's exactly what hypergrade is.
Have you gone to the bookstore and done your ID history yet? No, but I was supposed to have some. It's actually supposed to be that last.
I'm saying.
It's as
fixed
as
it's okay.
Should I do that now? Yeah, they wanted me to have you go there after class. And what are you talking about? Well, the thing is, like, I don't understand. It's good because why is John It is a chat.
Oh, yeah, it's kept us online.
Oh, yeah, no, I got the Tryparse. The only issue is that like I put in the conversion, I'm not asking three. When it does the conversion, it's never slightly off, but 1 cent or 0.1 cents. And I guess that's because the number of conversion.
Can you show me or can you just you need to go somewhere? I don't want
This
you
is
to
my
say.
shot.
Oh, okay. You can have 5 minutes to take a look at it. Look at all those pretty posted. That's stinky. You guys, I think we should just have a 1-day week.
I have a question.
Every week you guys are doing so good. Yes, sir.
I have an issue.
What's the
Like,
matter?
hypergrade.
Mhm.
Like I tried to submit it so many times that it would not allow me when I
the numbers thing, two numbers. I mean, the output is the same, like Visual Studio, but on Hypergrade, it's just like flowing out for some reason. All the lines are, these two lines are, these four lines are being together, like.
Oh, so it won't let you see it now, because it's true.
I can try to turn it again.
But it seems that you have whatever it's going to see. It needs to be worked for. I think that is actually
Okay.
okay.
Now I have to go to my next class. Okay, oh my God. This too short. Excuse me.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Okay.
one of the-
Oh, I need a new one.
It's exactly written as the way it's being put on like a different line where it's really on the same line, but I couldn't figure out how to do that because I figured I was thinking this would on the line was also affecting the space.
I use right instead of right line.
So these would end up on the line. These two would be considered wrong, but this one would not.
Yeah, what did you guys do to get your program to
And
function?
then the other one is right.
If you don't mind.
Is the 27.2.
Which one?
I wanted
No, fuel stop.
27.25.
Like I got mine almost done.
Conversion number here,
Let's go. That's case one.
which is just the value that's not online.
So mine right now,
Why is
So
blue?
it's like,
For
I
test
don't know
case
what
three,
one
there's
to
different, there's different lines. No.
Because this number makes it work for both of these two. Like,
Why is there different?
this number using those, maybe it works together.
Because it wants
Which is why maybe there's like something, I don't know, it doesn't work for just this one. And even then it works almost right for this one.
well, mine goes to here and it works, but then every time it's outputting this down here.
And when I use Visual Studio,
Yeah, let's do that. So let me see if it's different if you do the conversion. Because that wouldn't be.
Where's your?
Oh, I don't have a hyperlink up yet. Oh, that's
It'll tell you the right price.
but it's putting this at zero price cannot be used for comparison every time.
Price per liter is 120. This should be like $4.
Oh, I'm not multiplying it. I'm dividing it.
Why?
Oh, I thought we were doing the actual conversions, not what she told us. All right, I'll fix that.
You have to convert the liter to gallons.
There we go.
So you need to take the Canadian liter, multiply it by however many liters are in a gallon, and that will give you the Canadian gallon price.
Oh, okay.
See, if you input 1.2
And we're going to say here.
Canadian gallon should be 4.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so I need to figure out what test case 3 is.
Okay, so let's read about the one that
So I said over here.
So we what happens if you
I remember because
Isn't that much better? My decision is this one.
and you can see the zero and the data entry. Which it just says like it wants no backslash n. Like what's a line somehow, but the line there, but downloading line. It wants to be in line in the earlier code too. Like it only if one of the which stations got. This doesn't. Fix this.
Great. So let's see how that put that number in.
Or just the. Oh, it's not
Oh.
so that you that's so let's see if I can say you look at your October stuff. So let's look at that. Here's the second person that CIS150. It's too short. That's where it checks for you.
Finished pass all three. So for these, it works. It needs to be right. But it works twice. Control. So
I'm still trying to figure this out.
Once you get it figured out, it's the easy part.
Then you gotta make it.
Putting it into hypergrade and getting all the right format too.
Yeah, some of my C# class, JavaScript class will be on this. I just think this is just different.
Okay.
So where you stuck on?
Okay, so. Let's see here. I'm trying to get the conversions right, so this is probably the incorrect conversions, correct?
Yeah, you don't need gallon because they're already entering.
Okay.
They're already entering the price of gas for America in gallons. So what you need to do is you need to take the price of the Canadian fuel that they enter, which is in liters, and you need to multiply that by 3 point whatever you have in just there.
Oh,
You know, because that.
if I do that,
Say I take that.
so then go meters instead. I can.
Except the other people.
Do the same down here with this.
So what I did is I made 2 different variables. I made Canadian fuel, US fuel, and then Canadian gallon.
Okay.
So Canadian fuel would be the initial value of which they inputted for the Canadian fuel per liter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so you would take your liters variable and you would do Canadian gallon. You would take Canadian gallon and equal and set it to liters, which liters is set to whatever, you would take Canadian gallon equals Canadian fuel times 3.78.
I think this works in the same. I think this works the same way. I can try it again. I think we can go here and go 120 and we have 220. I didn't save it, didn't I?
No, you ran you ran the last previous build because there's filters.
Where is it here? Oh, it needs to be an offset. Fine. Yeah, it works in the. I think it works in the same.
So right now your Canadian station is only being up 3 cents.
Okay.
And it should be a lot.
So what's the? Is that a bank conversion or something?
Mm-hmm. Let's see what they're. Where are you asking for it? Right here.
Yeah.
So it's the price per lead.
So it's just that. Do you want to try to do your multiplication with that? It's precise method. Because I mean, maybe you should have been. It's like your precision was what made it sound like.
This works.
It's time.
So I must be doing the wrong version. And I think it'll work for.
I know what you're looking at. I'm looking for the instructions because it tells you if you look at all the instructions.
Well,
So have you not done that ruffle yet? It says, are you not doing them in order?
I'm doing them in order.
Because it should have.
so you're taking the American gallons price,
Oh, it was in the first.
1.2 or whatever they have.
It explains to you what that does.
And you're,
So you can go back
you're
to
saying
it.
scratch
What
that.
it's basically doing
and
is
make it
setting up
equal
the environment for
the
future
liter
periods,
price
and
times
that's
3
why if
point.
you finish the whole fridge ruffle,
Okay.
you're not going to be prepared to
Okay.
do the second ruffle.
No,
I'm really sorry. I
It's
had a
okay,
long.
you're doing great. I just want you
Got
to
this
look at it so much. It's so easy.
Because then you're taking liters and you're taking those. You're taking that and you're saying whatever this answer was.
I'm better off putting some values in here.
I guess so,
I think
I'm gonna clean up all this mess here.
just need more variables so that you can hold information separately. That's what I would do. I feel like.
To go up here and declare like new strings or something like that, or new decimals.
So I have it to where the user will enter the value for Canadian gas, and that will go to Canfield,
Okay.
right? And then they'll enter the price of American gallons, and that will go into US gal, whatever you know.
Just do something like this, like make that new variable here, say 8 gallons, something like that. And then you go decimal C liters like that. Like variables.
And then I would make a variable C gallons. So you can take C liters, multiply it by your liters variable.
That's what I'm gonna do right here. This is the end of 8 gallons, that's it for American. Got that. Now if I save that.
It's too hard for you guys to find information in this crate.
Try
to
that.
find that. That's what I do with you.
It's not gonna work.
Stack them up in a nice towel.
Something's not working.
Something with my mind.
Yes.
So I have user input 1, user input 2, can fuel, can gallon, and then I set my meter to a few points. So I guess
Let me do that. That was my
so
one.
I have a message from the user.
No.
So
I'm gonna put the box and keep them on the table. What?
When all else fails,
That's what I would like to do.
make sure it's valid.
See if we can took all of the.
And then see, this is all my conversion right here. You're taking their input, can fuel, multiplying it by 3.78, I think, and that you're setting it to Canadian gallon. Okay. So now you have your Canadian gallon and US gallon, and all you have to do is compare which one is greater, and then whichever one is greater.
Okay.
You're on that first record. Yeah. Is everything working?
Well, I'm
You
already
actually have 2 in. Oh,
I've been trying this all hour. So when I got here, it was like that. So I'm like, okay.
so I can declare 2.
Turn
I
it
can
on.
say this is in value 2 here. Saying I'm not allowed to do that though.
You need to clear it up.
No,
this is
Shane refurbished it. He's a
so
lead
so I
engineer.
have a
Oh, string and
String.
oh, okay.
Oh, I see.
He takes over, finds the old computers up, restores them.
So all the code I have here is right, like up to here, this works, but I'm not,
The only light.
I should be doing that later,
So it's
out here.
It's.
So I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna enter my input, it's gonna go into this value, it's gonna read the line, then I'm gonna convert it into a decimal, which is correct.
But you don't want to, you don't want to, no, you want to keep that in value. You want your liters to equal the liter conversion.
Oh, so I should just float it like, go right up here and just say float, the liters, and then that should equal.
Will it come out when it's plugged in? Did you try?
Get rid of
It's been plugged in all out. And probably the decimal gallon, that should get rid of it as well. It'll just take that.
yeah, you don't need it. Because, yeah, with the US,
I think it's a little fun. Get rid of this.
Those on even like a Chromebook. If you have a Chromebook or something, because those don't really use
This, okay.
Yeah, but the problem is, if I do it on a Chromebook, I can, but.
So I got that.
Chromebooks.
Oh, so now you did your, oh, you validated
Most of my
down there, okay. So let me, I know how that works. We have,
So you don't get to take it on.
I did something like this, but I did it.
Dr. Terry wants to make our school one to one, but
yeah, you want to
Right
survey.
now, they're just
Yeah.
in each class or something.
yeah.
So I should probably just,
In fact, last week, he bought 3 whole Shane
oh, you called a double. Oh, okay.
which of the Leno.
Yeah.
So that would be double 8 gallons and double.
There's a one of the Chromebooks.
They were, in my opinion, they were better than safe.
Do they? Well, we can get it. That's the reason I set up stuff on graphics.
So if I run my
Those kind of devices, you know, those buses are all set. Well, I want to fix it for you fast. Kids, you computing, man.
I also do.
It's like
My grade
last
is talking about.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm sure it's matched the right thing. So here it says that it shouldn't be on a new line.
Mhm.
But here it says it should.
So which one are you looking at? Let me see. We were just
the
looking
price
at-
per which is right. If I do a right line, this top one is a new line, they should. Or no, this top one should be right, because it wants a new line,
Right.
but
So it's if that message comes up that it's invalid. So what we did is put the right line with the empty line within that if statement. So it only puts out that empty line if it puts out the invalid line.
oh, so I should put it here. Okay.
Yeah, so instead of doing it automatically, only do it if that is invalid message
But
comes out, if that
For
makes
the
sense.
invalid message, it doesn't want a new line. It wants it to be all on one line,
Uh-huh.
and then a new line at the end. Whereas I have a new line here and a new line. Because this one wants to please enter the
So up
price
here too. Please, should be invalid data should be.
range.
See, comes you in the store and once you
So now it's
So before which station has the best fuel price? This is what we ended up.
before this.
Yeah. I think that's the one where I think that we ended up having to put that within the if statement. So try that and see if that comes on. Guess I just did enough differently. Now it's just the rounding. And so what he had to do is take here's your conversion. So we need to show me your lead.
So we
we
needed,
have to do that.
Have a good day.
how come we needed a
Sorry for
third,
my behavior.
You are fine.
you needed a third decimal?
Yeah, and
when
it's really
when
weird
converting
because
into two?
he was,
We need something to.
he had an even more precise number because he had decimal places up to like 6 and it was still doing that conversion error. So I think that I just got lucky on whatever number I picked for that third one to be an error to bring that up. I think I'm going to put it in the hypergrade description that it needs to use that as the conversion factor because I don't want everybody to, I'll just let you guys fight with it. No, not what we want.